Welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. After nearly 5 years of investigation, the FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion. CNN observed local and federal law enforcement outside his home in Woodbridge, Virginia this morning. Attorney General Pam Bondi gave very few details about the suspect this morning, but said this cold case has been solved.
Yeah, the cold case has been solved. CNN cracked it wide open. A 30-year-old white man seen on the screen is the person responsible for planting the pipe bomb. Okay. This is retard week. Okay, this is retard week. But it doesn't mean that CNN made a mistake. CNN has had a habit of doing this regularly. I'm going to show you the last report that they covered on the shooting. Remember that shooting that took place earlier in the year, where they said that this guy on the screen was possibly white. Okay, this person was possibly white, according to CNN. What is it about CNN and profiling violent crimes and attributing it exclusively to white people? Okay, now, Mehdi Hassan had this to say about the pipe bomber. They had said for years, let's not even go into the conversation around why it took so long for the FBI under Joe Biden. They didn't even solve the case. They didn't. But essentially, what we're finding out now is that they knew who the pipe bomber was, but they refused to pursue the leads that they had. Was it because they knew that the pipe bomber was black? Let's watch TDSBC and their coverage of the pipe bomber, and Mehdi Hassan, the very annoying pundit, okay, who repeatedly calls Americans Islamophobic and racist, says that the FBI and the CIA didn't catch the bomber because he was white. Let's listen.
Jelani, you're a black man, I'm a Muslim. When you consider how black criminals and Muslim terrorists are treated, both by the legal system and by the media, and yet the January 6th pipe bomber who laid explosives in front of the RNC and DNC headquarters still walks free. We just learned today that then Vice President-elect Harris was inside the DNC when the bomb was found there. We still don't take domestic terrorism of the far-right white variety seriously in this country, do we?
No, we don't. We've seen this since the Obama administration, where they pointed out that there was this rise of white nationalist terror, and that was promptly squashed and jumped upon by the Republicans in Congress.
Because the Obama administration was a race-grifting administration. The black people could do no wrong. Look, a black person was arrested. Oh, it must have been because he was profiled. Look, we need to call this insanity out everywhere we see it. And this is TDSBC years ago claiming that the pipe bomber wasn't caught because he was white. And then he opens up the segment saying, I'm a Muslim, you're a black man, and we know that the system is rigged against us. They profile us, they arrest us disproportionately more than everyone else. It's because and we assume that the pipe bomber hasn't been caught because he's white.
And so great cries of outrage in response to that. And this has been what we've seen since then. Nowhere near the level of alarm that we've had around the, what was the phrase they used, Islamic terror that they were trying to make Barack Obama say all the time.
Yeah, it's just so depressing, the double standards. I don't know how many times you can draw attention to it. I, as a Muslim, keep drawing attention to it.
Yes, shut up, Mehdi Hassan. Just shut up. You've proven that your coverage is anything but balanced and non-partisan and truthful. okay, claiming that the FBI and CIA didn't catch the pipe bomber because he's a white person is racist. You know, people who have been pushing the race argument for a long time attempt to claim that it's okay to be racist against. In fact, they say you can't be racist against a white person while being racist against white people. All right. Now, let's dial it back to common sense, okay? The Biden administration had 2 years to catch this guy. They didn't catch him. Trump's administration steps in, does the footwork, the legwork, and then they catch this guy. All right. CNN and TDSBC have invested over 2 years of narrative investing in this fantasy that the pipe bomber was white. They needed the pipe bomber to be white because it suited their emotional narrative and their political narrative. We've already seen the last shooter who CNN claimed to be possibly white. We've heard Ilhan Omar claim that white people are meant to be profiled, that they are the dangers that we face in society today. Okay, so we just need this to stop. Personally, I need this to stop because it is upsetting to see people bear false witness and try to make the world believe that Caucasians, white people, are the problem, are the source of all of the world's problems. All right. Now, the FBI took time to track all of the purchases. They took years to track the components and the purchases. And you know what? They weren't even, trying to catch this guy because they had all of the leads leading up to this guy. Why didn't they catch this individual until now? Mm-hmm. If the bomber had been a white conservative, CNN would have released his childhood dentist medical records by now. Look, they would have had all of his information out there. Everything would have been out in the open. Ilhan Omar would be on a panel saying, "See, I told you so." Okay, so I mean, it's just insane what we get to see in the news. Now, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is in the news again. All right, and here he is again, race grifting because a reporter asked him a question about the Christmas tree lighting. If you recall, the Christmas tree lighting was followed by violence that was carried out by a black teenage gang.
That you think that a Christmas market across the street from City Hall is more a threat to public safety than violent black teenagers running down State Street shooting people at a Christmas tree lighting shows your priorities. What do you say to those people, citizens, black, brown, business leaders? What do you say to those people?
Got it.
Yeah. That if they get a phone call from you or they get an interaction with you, they should avoid you. I'm not going to entertain because the whole premise of everything that you bring up is not only disgusting and racist. Really? There's no fact to it. In fact,
so the reporter politely asks him a question because Brandon Johnson gave another stupid take. His stupid take was a Christmas market, okay, across from City Hall was more violent than young black men running around shooting people during the Christmas lighting ceremony. Brandon Johnson, again, needs a pink helmet. All right. If you don't know what a pink helmet is, all right, those of you who know, you know. He needs a pink helmet because the things that come out of his mouth don't make sense. Young black people shooting and killing other people is fine. But when it comes to a Christmas market, that's violence. These people are just retarded.
In fact, so check this out. I actually hired 36,000 people work for the city of Chicago right now. So I do know what it's like to run a major operation. I have the biggest corporation right now in the city of Chicago right now.
Brandon, that is a horrible take. It's called big government. And conservatives know that big government is bad. And look at how proud he looks. He looks proud of it. He's like, I've got the biggest corporation in the... Look, it's government. And whenever you guys claim that the government employing people is a good thing, all right, it's a problem because you're bloating the budgets, you're making the government bigger than it should be, and it's a bad thing. Brandon Johnson is a bad thing. And besides that, you didn't build the corporation you're referring to. All right, it's an operation that has been running for over 200 years. You stepped into it. You'll be leaving soon. You're not running it, or you didn't create it. You happen to be there, and you were elected. You're not the entrepreneur. Okay, so stop looking smart.
So thank you very much. And I'm going to close with this: there is not a person in this city who spends more time working to ensure that we're protecting working people. There's not a person that spends more time thinking about it. In fact, our budget reflects that. My values reflect that. You would do yourself good service by actually showing up in this room with some level of integrity as well as some honesty. You don't operate in any of that.
All right, so that's Brandon Johnson blowing up over a very simple question about why Brandon Johnson believes that a Christmas market across from City Hall is more problematic than a gang of black people shooting at people during a Christmas lighting ceremony. That was what brought about his outrage. Okay, a reporter was saying people have had concerns about these statements that you made, and he blows up on the reporter. Let me know what you think in the chat, okay, about this, because whenever we go off on these politicians, sometimes people might feel like we're too hard on them. It is statements like this that essentially trigger us, because we vote these people in. They are accountable to the voters. They are accountable to the citizens. When they say things we don't agree with, and we ask them to explain themselves, what we expect is for them to explain themselves, not to go on a tirade, ranting and attacking us. All right. Now, as far as Brandon Johnson is concerned, everything is racist. Last week, he said that incarcerating violent criminals was racist. Okay. Now he's being asked a question, and the question is racist because it pointed out a fact. Black young men ran around town shooting people during the Christmas lighting ceremony. And Brandon Johnson is saying here, no one works harder than I do to keep the city safe. Then you're not doing a good job. If you're working so hard to keep people safe, and every week people keep getting shot and many times killed, you're horrible at your job. It's really that simple. Every failure that he experiences is someone else's fault. It's Donald Trump's fault. It's the white people's fault. It's the fault of Santa Claus. Since a Christmas market is problematic if it's set up across the way from City Hall, but not when black people who have been committing crimes regularly for years are running around town making the city unsafe. No, that's not a problem. When Donald Trump wants to come in and clean up the streets, that's a big problem. It's racist. He's bringing in the National Guard to watch citizens of Chicago. The citizens that they're there to watch are the criminals, not the law-abiding citizens. So if Brandon Johnson is so keen on protecting the criminals, then some questions need to be asked during the next election. And of course, his response will be that it's racist, because he believes that jail is racist. He believes that accountability is racist. He believes that questions from the press are racist. And now I think he believes everything that is asked that makes him look bad is racist. Now, Chicago has a mayor who acts like, an activist trapped in a city job. So maybe he should just resign and go ahead and join Ilhan Omar, because Ilhan Omar, friends, is in the news yet again. Okay, she's making it impossible for us not to talk about her. Now, a couple of months ago, there was a mayoral election happening in Minneapolis, and there was a candidate of Somali origin running for office against a Caucasian man. Okay, Mark Frey, I think that's his name. If I got it wrong, I'll correct it. And guess what happened? Ilhan Omar goes out to campaign for her Somali compatriot, because as far as they're concerned, they are not American. Okay, these people are not American. The video we're about to play, they don't even speak English, so we're going to be reading out the subtitles and we're going to be reacting to it. Now, the show is all about the commentary that we have, but it's also about the engagement and the conversations in the chat. So let me know your thoughts in the chat of what we've covered so far. Okay, if you have some thoughts, let me know in the chat. Now, here's Ilhan Omar campaigning. Now, this is meant to be campaigning, but it appears to be her attacking and berating a group of Somalis who have refused to vote for this person because they are from a different tribe. Have a listen. All right, sorry. I'm going to just read this. Okay, so she says, when a Somalian person becomes an enemy, they become a serious one. She's referring to people who didn't vote for her candidate of choice. All right, the dude on the left side of her and right to us. Okay, so let's keep going. There are people like that living right here in our city, talking about other Somalians. Now, the people she's referring to are people who are from a different tribe from the person who is campaigning to be mayor. The person of Somali origin who is campaigning to be mayor. So listen to what she says. And we all see them. Some of us try to dismiss it, saying, "Oh, that person just talks too much. It doesn't mean anything." Okay. Or leave them alone. That's my relative. You probably met them in the coffee shops. You know exactly the kind of people I'm talking about. You've sat with them at Starbucks. Maybe you've seen them at the mosque once in a while. Maybe you've gone to parties together. You know who I mean. You've seen them. We need to get rid of these people. What does she mean, get rid of these people? Okay, what do you think she means, get rid of these people? Now see what she says. Get rid of them because we will never gain power and move forward as Somalians as long as these people live among us. Now, whenever we talk about these kinds of situations in Minneapolis and other parts of the country where immigrants create enclaves and they begin to act out the things they did in their countries, they're bringing the politics, the way they vote, the way they do things from their countries, and they're acting it out right here in front of you. You guys need to keep your eyes wide open. And we don't. Okay, so I'm going to go back and read the previous one. We will never gain power. As far as she's concerned, it's all about gaining power. They want to run the United States of America. We will never gain power and move forward as Somalians as long as these people live among us. They don't see themselves as American. They don't. They don't see themselves as American. Okay, Americans, wake up. They don't. You gave them a green card. You gave them a path to citizenship, and they still don't see themselves as American. They still dress the same way like they did when they moved from their countries, even though the weather is very different. They still dress like they're in the desert. They still dress like they don't adopt the language. At least when the Jews and the Italians, the Sicilians, and everyone else who moved from Europe and even the Middle East came to the United States in the early 1900s, they integrated. They learned the language. These people are campaigning in Somali. Why is this a problem? Because one of the reasons why I've said many times that the US Constitution will not work for any other community or country in the world is because many communities and countries do not have the same qualities that the United States has had from the founding of the United States to at least the mid-1900s. And what is that? They shared a common language. They all spoke English. They wrote in English. They taught in English. They communicated at home, at the dinner table in English. The second thing that they had was that they had a shared religion. Not everyone was a devout Christian, but they all shared Christian values. Everyone knew the 10 Commandments are the rule of the community. Those two things. In every other part of the world, you have people who either have a shared language, but they do not have the Christian ethos, or they have the Christian ethos, but they don't have a shared language. You need the ability to communicate ideas and creative thought about your society in the same language. And that is why pacts like the EU will not work, because you have different countries without shared language trying to get together economically, and they are trying to piece together a United States of Europe, and it will not work because they don't have a shared language. They don't have shared religious values or social norms or an ethos that works. They are all trying to gather at the altar of wokeness, and wokeness abhors the Constitution. So let me know what you think of my breakdown. If you agree with it, but I believe I'm right. I believe I'm right. So let's keep listening to Ilhan Omar. When these people tell you who they are, please pay attention. All right? Please pay attention when they tell you who they are. Because here she is in her natural element, speaking her language, and she's telling us all what their plan is. They want to gain power. They want to move forward as Somalians, not as Americans. Again, they don't see themselves as Americans. As long as these people meaning the other tribe that doesn't vote the way they want them to vote, as long as they live among us. And we don't kick them out. The same people, these Somalians, we try to defend, they are the ones who want to see us in jail. Really? Because you guys commit fraud. You guys commit fraud. I've told this story before, and I'm going to tell it again. In Nigeria, there are people who go into politics, and when they rob the coffers and they leave office, whenever someone tries to bring them to justice, they act as if that person is doing something wrong. They say, "How dare you try to imprison me for stealing from the government? Don't you know that it is the thing that people do?" In Nigeria and in most African countries, corruption is something that is expected. If you are not corrupt, they see it as something wrong with you. If you don't engage in corrupt practices, you're the problem, not the corrupt practices. You are the problem.
ilaahay keeno in xabsina la geliyo maalin ilaahay keena been naga abuuro
who spread lies about us, who make videos claiming we said things we never said, really. And when that happens, there's no way to defend ourselves. Excuse me, there's how is it that you're claiming that people claim you say things you didn't say and there's no way to defend yourself? There's a simple remedy to that. You get an independent interpreter. That person watches the same video and says, okay, no, they actually didn't say that. We've had people on the internet do that for smear campaigns before. They play back what was claimed to be said, and then someone who has knowledge of the language says, no, this is what was actually said. That hasn't happened yet. Okay, you guys have been caught stealing, cheating at elections, threatening people who live in your communities to keep quiet about Ilhan Omar. Stop talking about her immigration fraud where she married her brother. Like, all of this stuff is out there. I can't keep saying all day, I didn't say that because I've got work to do. No, you have to. You have to be clear. And again, it would be easier if you guys simply spoke the frigging language. Stop carrying out these town halls. Stop campaigning in Somali. Stop campaigning in languages that are not English. These are not the languages that are accepted in the communities where you live. It's really that simple. We're busy doing our job, defending you, Somalians, protecting this country. I didn't. Creating laws, and that should concern you. If they are busy creating laws, that should. So, what kind of laws do you think that they are creating when they are busy defending Somalians, not Americans? They aren't defending Americans. They are defending Somalians. Do you think it is okay for these immigrants to essentially create enclaves within the United States where they dress differently, they speak a different language, they even campaign in a different language, and then they claim that whenever someone interprets what they said, they claim that it was misinterpreted? If you don't want to be misunderstood, speak the frigging language. It's really as simple as that. I can't waste every day fighting against accusations of what they accuse me of. All right, so we get the sense of this video. All right, she's busy attacking a certain tribe. Now, what tribe is that? All right, now, there are rival Somali clans who don't want this guy to be the mayor. And of course, they all banded together. They didn't vote for him. They voted for the other guy. All right. And essentially, what these Somalis have done is that they have imported their tribal feud into the United States. They don't see themselves as Americans. And even when they try to look at themselves as Somalis, they also have a tribal view of things. I told you about this several podcasts ago, that in third world countries, there is racism going on, but it is simply called tribalism. And when you run your country in a tribal way, where it's not like there's a shared value that everyone in the country agrees on, but you guys only look at things from a tribal lens, it is destructive. That is one of the things that has destroyed the third world and countries like Nigeria. Everything is tribal. Everything is about the tribe you come from. Business is all about, I will do business with you fairly if you're from this tribe. And even when you get down to it, when you look at the subsets of tribes, there's a major tribe and then there are clans within the tribes. There is still racism within those tribes. That is what has destroyed third world countries. Tribalism. Is it India? There's tribalism in India. There's tribalism in every third world country, and these guys have imported it into the United States. So they're not voting as Americans. They are not voting to make America great for Americans. They're making it so that their people, their clans, are given power. That's what she said, power. They want to get power. So Minneapolis essentially is being led by people who have a tribal bent. Even within the police, they're bringing in people from certain tribes to police everyone else. Do you know what? I guarantee you that if you do some research and go into the people who are being appointed into the police force, you'll find out that there is a predominant number of people from a certain tribe. And when you go in there, you see how they congregate with each other against other people from a different tribe. That is the way these people operate. So, what do you think about this in the chat, guys? All right, because like these stories are the stories that go under the radar. We talk about Ilhan Omar and her stupid takes about President Trump and about white people. We talk about all those things. But where does it come from? It comes from this. It comes from a bigoted group of people who won't even work together as people from the same country. And apart from that, they don't even want to integrate, because whenever they talk amongst themselves, they see themselves not as Americans, they see themselves as Somalians. All right, she's threatening a rival clan. The mayoral race is totally a clan-based thing. Okay, you vote for Somalis, whether they are qualified or not. Don't vote for the qualified candidates out there. And not that I'm saying that the other Democrat candidates, because he's woke as hell. But the other clan decided to sabotage this other guy and vote for the white guy, and they're losing it. Okay? Look, let's listen to one of their Somali reps, state reps, openly saying that U.S. taxpayers should fund Somalia. Let's have a listen.
Policies, how can the politics in Somalia can be, resonate what we have here in the United States, the democracy that we have. How can you help us, be a better country?
She's a rep. She's a rep in the United States. But when she says help us, she's referring to Somalia. Which is it? Are you representing the people of your district? Are you representing the people of the United States? Or are you representing the interests of Somalia? If these people continue to say that they represent the interests of Somalia, they have to resign from Congress and they have to become ambassadors of their countries. Or they have to become private citizens in the United States who lobby the United States government for aid to Somalia. They can't be elected officials who are meant to be representing their constituents, speaking as if they don't represent the citizens of the United States, but a different country. That's not how it's meant to work. Let me know if I'm speaking out of my behind. Is that the way it's meant to work now? Where every representative, every elected official tells their people, we're here not to serve the state or the district, we're here to serve another country that is miles away across an ocean. Okay? What do you think about that? Is that the way it's meant to work? Let me know in the chat.
Build back what we used to have back in long time ago. So hopefully we will be able to help our country, our former country, Somalia.
So sorry, the first part she said was the actual thing she meant. When they say our country, they mean Somalia. They don't mean the United States. There's a video that was circulating last week where Nick Shirley was asking some young Muslim men in Dearborn if there was a conflict between the United States and a Muslim country, will they fight against that Muslim country? They all said no. These are people that are enjoying the benefits of living in the United States. They enjoy the benefits of the educational system, the welfare system, the benefits, the subsidies. And when it's time to defend the borders of your country and the interests of the country that has made you, you say, no, I'm not going to fight. I'll rather fight with the Muslim country that wants to destroy America. That is what they said. So is this diversity? Yes, it is. It is. This is what diversity looks like. Forced diversity, where people are like, we have to have as many people in the country so that we look politically correct. Let's bring them from everywhere, even if they hate us. And when they hate us, let's roll over and let them stomp on us, burn the flag, and say death to America on our streets. That I am not exaggerating. That's happening in these cities. All right. This is a foreign political culture transplanted into the U.S. They are here to represent their countries of origin, not the United States. So, is this what you voted for? And I'm speaking to the Democrats who vote for these people or who allow these policies that promote unchecked immigration into your country without demanding that these people integrate. Now, we've pointed out the problem. Okay. Minnesota, right now, as far as we are concerned from everything we've seen, is not a blue state. All right? It's a Balkanized Homeowners Association meeting from Mogadishu. It's just a bunch of people who happen to move from Somalia and they bought property in the United States. And they're like, look, we're going to vote based on our differences, on our clans. And if you're not in our clan, you're out. They've brought the sentiments of their countries into the United States. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a load of crap. It's wrong. It is dangerous. And it should not be happening. All right. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. Did I go overboard about, the story? Maybe I did, because as an immigrant, I feel like actions like this collectively, when you collectively when you collect all of these actions from different parts of the country and bring them together, you realize that when put together, they destroy the very fabric of the United States of America, the place where most immigrants want to flee to from their poorly run countries. If the United States and the West are destroyed, I mean, that's it. There's nowhere else for people of common sense and of dignity and of good morals to run to. All right. People think that it's going to be easy to kind of create a change in their countries. What happened in the American Revolution can't be replicated today. It can't. There are people who romanticize about changing their countries, revolution, and so on. And I am one of those people that don't think that is possible today. The Americans were fighting a war of attrition against a superpower that was oceans away. They didn't have jets. They didn't have any of those things. They had ships, but once they landed, they were on essentially equal footing with the resistance on the American continent. The colonials had guns. They could come together and defend the interests of their colony. Most of these third world countries have despotic governments that are embedded in the same country. All right, it's not like it was with the Americans and the British. And most of these countries have taken away the guns of their people. There's no way that they can defend themselves from a tyrannical government. It isn't going to happen. So when you look at all these countries all over the world where people are fleeing from, and years ago, President Trump said, don't come to the United States, fix your own countries. I was still living in Nigeria at the time, and I said, yes, let's fix the country. And people said, well, he said that because he's racist. He's inherently racist. He's always been racist. Okay, like Ilhan Omar says or hints at, in this video. I think that's what she says.
Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation.
No. You guys have only seen yourselves as Somalis. You haven't seen yourselves as Americans. You guys haven't integrated. You guys only speak your languages. You guys still behave like you're in Mogadishu. You're still in Somalia. You haven't integrated. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just have to fact check that.
So not only are we not going anywhere.
Oh.
Not only are we not going anywhere, we are not going to allow anybody to make us feel less Minnesotan or less American.
Well, no one is making you guys feel that way. So sorry, she didn't exactly say that. It was later in this speech that she said that. But you guys already make yourselves look and feel less Minnesotan. You don't speak the language. You don't communicate in the language. You run your campaigns in your Somalian dialects. No one knows what you're talking about half the time. Guys, it just makes no sense. Okay. Now, for our final story, we're still on the accusations that Pete Hegseth issued an order that was essentially a war crime. And ABC here gives a report that seems to imply that survivors were actually trying to recover the drugs that were being destroyed. Let's have a listen.
Tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the two survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice.
This backs up the entire second strike.
Yes, I mean, it just doesn't get more crystal clear than that. The mission is take out the boat, stop the drugs, keep this vessel and its cargo from reaching our shore using lethal means. And our amazing military, the heroes of the United States Armed Forces, did exactly that. President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, and this entire government are committed to finally using our military to defend our people, our borders, our family, our culture, our history, our heritage, to defend the United States. We're not going off running around the Middle East trying to build democracies in caves and deserts and in distant sands that have never known democracy. We're using the military to protect American security, American prosperity, American lives right here where we live, where our children.
So, ABC has essentially informed everyone that the strike was legal. If you have people who are trying to bring weapons of mass destruction into your country and your orders are to execute with extreme prejudice, don't let that boat or the drugs in that boat survive, and the people who fell in the water climb back into the boat to try to salvage the drugs, it means that they're intent on carrying out their mission. Democrats are cowards. They're cowards. They've always been cowards. And I mean the institution of the Democrat Party. They've always been cowards. Whenever it's time to do something of meaning, of worth, to defend or to represent the United States, they always bow to political correctness. They bow to optics. They want it to appear like they're the good guys, but they're essentially cowardly. When someone is bringing weapons of mass destruction that could potentially destroy the lives of millions of American citizens, and you're arguing as to the merits of terminating that threat, you are a coward. That's what happened in the Second World War. Chamberlain was busy being politically correct with Hitler. He kept trying to make nice with Hitler while Hitler was building his war machine. It was Chamberlain's fault that Hitler went as far as he did. He could have stopped Hitler dead in his tracks. He could have sent a show of force to the Sudetenland when Hitler invaded it and took over the Sudetenland. He wasn't meant to be on the Sudetenland. And at the time that they were making those moves, the German armed forces wasn't even prepared for a conflict. They made a gamble, and the Allied forces or the Allied countries blinked. And Germany was like, oh, really? We can do that. And they went ahead and kept building their war machine until it got to the point where they were difficult to handle. They invaded Poland, and these jokers, these cowards, who would be Democrats today if I would, if I could say the truth about that, they would be Democrats today, kept trying to negotiate in a mealy-mouthed way. Oh, why did you invade Poland? It's wrong. They kept trying to talk when someone was actually killing people and blowing up buildings and invading countries. And I think they said, okay, you can have Poland. Okay, we'll concede that. That gave Hitler all the momentum he needed to begin to invade the other European countries. And whenever you watch CNN, all right, like whenever you watch CNN, you hear arguments like this, and then it's good to hear some common sense pushback whenever you have these conservative voices speaking into the conversation.
Let me just start by saying I don't care, not one bit, genuinely and wholly do not care about these two men in the boat. We're talking about two people who were clinging to life. How about the thousands of Americans every month that are on the floor in some bathroom clinging to life because of overdoses from drugs that these people brought? These guys are not good guys. But this basically follows the typical Democratic fact pattern. It starts with a fake news story about Pete Hegseth that gets disproven. Right? He didn't actually order them to kill everyone. That's been sort of taken back. And then it goes into the part where Democrats defend the bad guys at the expense of law enforcement and now the American military. This is kind of standard Democratic operations. And if you ask me, I give more of a crap about the Americans who are losing their life every single year to drug overdose than two jerks floating on a boat trying to flip it back over or whatever. It doesn't matter.
And essentially, look, that is my sentiment as well. That is my sentiment. If someone is actively trying to crawl their way, it's like those zombie movies where the zombie is incapacitated in some way, but they are still clawing their way with one arm, trying to reach you to kill you. Are you going to say, oh, look, he's clinging to life, let's let him live? That guy is dangerous enough to trip up another person who doesn't know that they're there and kill them. Look, this is the way the world works. If someone is trying to bring weapons of mass destruction into your country, you execute with prejudice. If someone is trying to break into my home to harm my family, I should execute them with prejudice. My loyalties are to my wife and kids, not to the sensibilities of one joker somewhere who is spineless and wouldn't even lift up a gun to defend his home, or who has private security, because all these guys who claim like, oh, it's such a bad thing, they all have private security. Who will do the same thing to anyone who makes an attempt on the lives of the person that they're protecting. So these guys are just hypocrites and cowards. Now here's Ana Navarro, okay, from The View. She's hit the big time. She's now a regular on CNN, and she thinks that the United States stopping the flow of fentanyl that kills thousands and thousands of Americans is all about oil. Let's have a listen.
And so now we are facing the very reality of, okay, now Donald Trump and this government is completely invested in getting Maduro out. We've got 1/4 of the arsenal of the U.S. Navy parked off the coast of Venezuela.
Protecting American interests.
What is the American interest? Oil?
Drugs pouring into this country and killing us?
Most drugs do not come through Venezuela. Then why aren't you bombing Mexico?
So we closed the southern border, and that did a really good job.
And Ana Navarro is a certified moron from this argument. She's a certified moron, or she's just a dishonest grifter. Because honestly, like I've said earlier, these people don't make it simply by being unintelligent. They have some intelligence, and they use that intelligence to float upwards, in the slime that is their media apparatus. So they happen to say the right things, they posture the right way, they are politically correct, they are woke enough, they float to the top, and they continue to grift. However, her answers here are retarded. She's claiming that, okay, so why aren't we bombing Mexico? Because the border is secure. Why is a quarter of the arsenal of the United States parked off the coast of Venezuela? Because Venezuela is bringing in weapons of mass destruction. I'll keep saying that, okay? I'm going to keep calling fentanyl that. Because, like I've explained again and again, a bit of fingernail of fentanyl is enough to kill a horse. So when you have a boatload of fentanyl coming into your country, potentially killing hundreds of thousands of people, that is a weapon of mass destruction. And the US military is doing the job they pledged to do: defend enemies of the United States, foreign and domestic. If anyone from another country is shipping weapons of mass destruction, if those boats contained suitcase nukes, do you know what? I guarantee you, these Democrats will do the very same thing they're doing right now on national TV. They will be complaining that the president of the United States is being too violent against these people who are essentially attacking the United States. Oh no, don't blow them out of the water. Let them bring the suitcase nuke. Let them land. Let's prove that it's a suitcase nuke, and then put them in the justice system for a few years, or risk the suitcase nuke slipping through your fingers and winding up inland. Like I said, these guys are morons. And they're cowards. Okay? They're morons and they're cowards. All right. I'm going to take 3 comments from the comment section, and then we'll call it. All right. So we have a comment from Barbara Sherman. All right. Barbara Sherman says, good coverage of the woke insanity. She was referring to the coverage of CNN getting obliterated on air for defending the Democrats' sedition. All right. She says, good coverage of the woke insanity. Thank you. I'll give it a like. I'll give her comment a like. Fair listener says, honestly, President Biden was just the face for Obama's 3rd term. And a lot of people believe that. Now, let me know your thoughts in the chat. I have been going on, and essentially, I haven't asked you to put your thoughts in the chat. Okay, so let me know your thoughts concerning any of these, all these stories that we've covered. What do you think? And I will be reading them out. So this is coming from the video, Stunning Discovery, Biden's auto pen scandal raises questions about who really ran the White House. So everyone said that Joe Biden was essentially a proxy for Obama. Do you agree? All right, do you agree? Let me know in the chat. William Boomer says, from last night's live stream, last night's live stream was a very different live stream, thanks to Tim Walz. Tim Walz essentially And that live stream inspired the thumbnail for today's live stream. Tim Walz meltdown over Trump's comments. And if you weren't following the story, President Trump called Tim Walz a retard, and everyone had a meltdown. Oh, he called him a retard, and then Governor Walz steps up and then he says that people were driving by his house in the middle of the night, calling him a retard. So William Bloomer says, are they yelling tampon retard? It's possible. We have requested that Tim Walz ask his team to release the video of these people driving by his house and calling him a retard. We need evidence. Okay, we need evidence. All right, so guys, this is the news that we've covered for today. There are other things that are going on in the news, and to be honest, there's so much happening. For example, still on the drug boats that were being bombed, that is still in the news. We have the Democrats insisting on extending Obamacare subsidies for another 3 years, okay, so that the Trump administration essentially is handcuffed to a horrible healthcare plan that even Democrats have said repeatedly is broken. They want to handcuff Trump to this failed plan. And I think, of course, they will repeatedly try to spin it that the failed healthcare system is due to the Trump administration. President Trump has hinted at some ideas about reforming healthcare. And I think the Democrats are trying to head him off to keep him from implementing those changes within his term. And that's why they are insisting on a 3-year extension to cover the rest of his administration. So do you think that President Trump or the GOP should cave? I read somewhere, and I think I hope I can still find it. I read somewhere that the GOP, I'm going to see if I can find it. I was doing some research before I went live, and I hope I can find it. All right, it says that the GOP should, in essence, if the Democrats step up to try to push this plan, that they should pack it with a bunch of things that would neuter what the Democrats are trying to do. Okay. Okay. It's, guys, I do some research. I don't want you to think that I'm this savant that, goes through the internet and finds these stories. I try to do some searching. I am just one person who does the research. I'm a one-person production team, and sometimes I find some of these stories, and when I want to recall them, I'm like, okay, where did I put that story? I'm not sure I bookmarked it. Okay, yeah, good. I found it. So I'm going to just share this. I'm going to share this. Okay. So this creator, Oilfield Rando, says, we all know the GOP is going to reauthorize Obamacare subsidies. When they do, they need to cram a ton of punishments for sanctuary cities and states into the bill. Yeah, so that's his position on the current negotiations that the Democrats are trying to push into the Obamacare subsidies. Perhaps maybe tonight, we might cover this tonight. We might cover a few developing stories tonight. And if anything comes up that is of interest, we'll talk about it at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. Today has been a quiet day. It's lunchtime somewhere in the United States, and it is dinner time somewhere in the world. So I assume that it's a quiet day, and it's Friday. It's a weekend. It's the weekend, so people tend to be more conservative about engaging on live streams during these times, but it's fine. So these are the stories that we've covered. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. And if you've watched this long and you enjoy the laid back flow of the stories and you like my commentary, please consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. The bell icon notifies you when we go live. And consider liking, sharing the video. Liking and sharing the video. It helps out a whole lot. Now, concerning engagement, we create this experience not just for the commentary, but for the conversations we have in the chat. We've had very vibrant conversations in the chat, and we like you to, learn how to just do that, because learning how to engage is also good for the artificial intelligence enrichment. And let me explain what that is. Since you're here, I'm going to bore you with some details. Shortly after the Charlie Kirk murder, I was following some of the headlines on X, and I found a headline that simply said that the shooter was a conservative. And I was wondering how come that headline was showing up on my X feed. It turns out that was an AI aggregation that pulls from all of the comments and the posts on X that essentially says the conservatives were responsible for Charlie Kirk's murder. So what you need to learn about AI is that AI feeds on the content that has been put out there on the internet. It pulls in all this information and then it uses it to frame narratives or to frame results. If you search anything on AI when it comes to an ideology, the responses or the results will always lean left. They will always lean left because the content has been trained by the AI has been trained by left-leaning content, and conservatives who are right-leaning usually don't engage online. They don't create content or manifestos. They just want to be left alone. So one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to learn how to engage online. Learn how to engage online. Lauren says, sorry, I want to know if Lauren is talking on the main channel. Okay, yeah, Lauren on the main channel. Lauren says, Piper Brian Cole told the FBI that he was tricked into believing the 2020 election was stolen, just like the Capitol rioters. Most Democrats don't believe that. He doesn't sound like a Democrat. I don't know. Look, there's this thing called lying. All right, Lauren, there's something called lying. People who, okay, so Piper, Lauren, let's have a conversation, okay? Now, can I ask? I hope you don't think this is me leading you into an ambush, but it's just a thought. It just is the way to process certain ideas. Okay, it's just a thought experiment. So I'm not trying to ambush you. If you're still in the chat, just say yes. I'm just going to calm down, and I just want to have an exchange with you. If you're still in the chat, just say yes. I'm going to wait a few moments. If I see yes, then I'll proceed with the thought experiment. The live streams, for a lot of people who are viewing, you're viewing at certain timestamps. So I have to pause a little to make sure that the person I'm speaking with is still online. Okay. Okay, but let me just do this for the benefit of the audience. But I hope you're here, so I'll proceed. All right. I will proceed. Okay, Canary King, I see you. Greetings. All right, so Lauren, the reason why I say that it's very likely that this is a lie is this. Okay, here's why. This is a thought experiment. When you look at the religious affiliation of groups that believe that you need to exert violence in order to promote your religion, okay? Which religions tend to promote that ideology? You have Christians in one bucket, or Christianity in one bucket. You have Islam in another bucket. You have Hinduism, you have Buddhism, and so on. Which of these religions floats to the top when you think of a religion that promotes violence as a means for evangelizing new converts? The answer is really simple. There is empirical record that shows that Islam is that religion that for hundreds of years has always been known as a religion that forces conversions through conflict. We all know that. Okay, it's not profiling; it is empirical records. 2, let's take it another step. Over the last 30 years, let's stop at 30 years. How many Christian suicide bombers have you read about? How many Hindu suicide bombers have you heard about or read about? How many Buddhist suicide bombers have you read about? And how many Islamic or Muslim suicide bombers have you heard about? And then how many woke suicide bombers have you heard about? Right? The answer again would be you have more people of Islamic origin or heritage or faith who are among the suicide bombers. That is the next layer of thought. All right. Now let's land at the final layer of thought. If all of these things are true, and then you read up in a news story that somebody did certain things that leaned more to an ideology that believed violence was the way to move their ideas forward, but that person claims to be Hindu or claims to be Christian, would you believe that they were telling you the truth? It's a thought experiment. We can't go through life floating and just believing everything we see written up in the news. Piper Brian Cole says he was tricked into believing the 2020 election was stolen. It's very easy to muddy the water and claim that this person was actually a right-winger. And this individual could be willing to fall on his sword to smear the conservative side, to say, I'm conservative, and trust the mainstream media. They will take that confession and blow it out of proportion to say, see, conservatives are violent too. The mainstream media used January 6th as their lightning rod, their banner for 4 years. Everything wrong with the conservative side, January 6th. Something happens, Trump pardons George Santos, January 6th. Well, he recently pardoned a Democrat. I haven't seen any references to January 6th there because they are hypocrites. January 6th was a convenient tool that they could use to claim that conservatives or Republicans were violent. Meanwhile, during the Summer of Love, there were thousands and thousands of leftists flooding streets, burning down businesses and cities. And the media said that those riots were mostly peaceful. The crazy bit was that during one of those reports, there was a burning building behind the reporter. It was mostly peaceful. So I would say that Lauren, Piper, Brian Cole telling the FBI that he was tricked to believe that the 2020 election was stolen. Okay. Why was it that he planted pipe bombs at both the RNC headquarters and the DNC headquarters? That's a question people should ask. Why? Okay. So clearly, Lauren hasn't responded. She's not on the live stream, but I've given the thought experiment because it is good for us all to kind of figure out, how to kind of think through these arguments. Okay, Canary King sends his greetings. Hi, Canary King. Always great to see you in the chat. Always great to see you in the chat. All right, we're done covering the comments, and I've responded to the comments in the live chat. We're going to be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will be covering the developing stories then. I'll be looking through the stories that are developing, seeing which ones might make sense. But if you feel like there's a story that you would like us to cover, please consider sending it to the email address on the screen, crossroadsirl@gmail.com. It's always great to hear from you, to hear what you actually want to talk about. I want to be able to have these shows where we talk about the news and then we talk about things that you guys really want to talk about. You come for the commentary, but you stay for the conversation. I guess that could be a nice byline. Okay, you come here for the commentary on what's going on in the news, and maybe we have some fun while doing the commentary, and then you stay for the conversation. And we want to have lots and lots of rich conversations as we go along. All right, so we're over the hour mark. We've talked and we've covered the stories. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know what you think in the chat if you're still here. If I see anything come up in the chat, I will definitely be staying to answer the questions. So always rush to put your thoughts in the chat until the number of comments in the chat exceeds my ability to cover them within a reasonable amount of time during a live stream. I will read every comment in the chat. I will commit to do that. But if there's any I'll read all the comments in the chat. Okay, Lauren. All right, so Lauren has responded. I guess I don't know if she listened to what I said, but let me see what the response is. We had this ridiculous little fantasy for 5 years that the Piper was going to be a Democrat. And that was somehow going to make January 6th seem less embarrassing and shameful. Now what? Guys, Lauren, you're so fixated on this narrative that he says he was tricked. Okay, so can you answer the question why it was that I didn't even say that the guy was a Democrat. Okay. For everyone who has listened to this live stream, did I say he was a Democrat? All right. So this isn't connected to what has been said so far. If you're referring to what other people have said in their reports, I haven't seen anyone yet who has said that this person is a Democrat. One of the things that I try to encourage people to do is to think for themselves. I asked the question, how come there was a pipe bomb planted by the same guy at the RNC headquarters and at the DNC headquarters? It's a question that needs to be answered because it is not about Democrat or Republican at this point. It is about somebody planted a pipe bomb and nobody knew who this person was. The coverage of the first story was that CNN and TDSBC claimed that this was a white person. I didn't say Democrat. I didn't say Republican. I didn't say conservative. I didn't say progressive. So if you're responding to something that was said elsewhere, all right, you need to say, okay, these people said this. You're dropping a conversation into a mix that doesn't call for the conversation. So doesn't call for the comment. We never talked about it being a Democrat or Republican. Okay, we didn't. And guys, and this is where we have to extract ourselves from the narratives that are being pushed. If I say I support a conservative policy, it doesn't mean that I am essentially MAGA. It means that I support common sense. And the party that pushes common sense ideas and policies is the party that I would vote for. And I would encourage people to vote for, because common sense values always stand the test of time. They always do. So I am trying really hard to understand where this statement comes from. It didn't come from this live stream. Okay. We didn't say that he was conservative. We didn't say he was progressive. We were talking about the racial leanings of CNN and TDSBC. Mehdi Hassan, to be precise. He's always grifting about race, about different things that are not connected essentially to the story, but he always figures out a way to make it about race. When I talked about the story about Ilhan Omar and her Somali campaign, where she's threatening people who haven't voted for the person that they want voted in to be driven out and gotten rid of. It wasn't about race, or it wasn't about Democrat or Republican. It was about the question of an ideology that is being imported by immigrants who have refused to assimilate. Being an immigrant myself, I have a unique perspective on the way these people operate in their home countries, because it is exactly the same way it operates in my country of origin. It's all about tribe. It's all about race, essentially. Tribalism is just the same as racism. Okay. So, Lauren, thank you for commenting. Okay. My response to you is not hostile. It's just me asking for us to deal with these topics with honesty and with tons of common sense. The investigation is still ongoing. All right. And when I gave the breakdown on how to think through these things, remember, I pointed out that you need to look at who is most likely to do a certain thing. And when someone who is most unlikely to do a certain thing is suddenly being accused of being the person who did it, it is something to look into and take a second look. And people lie. People lie to push an agenda. They lie to push a narrative. They lie all the time. So when you have a pipe bomber, someone who committed a crime, open his mouth to say, I did it because I was tricked into believing that 2020 election was stolen. It's a lie. It's a lie. Right? Someone commits a crime. You want to believe the word of a criminal? Lauren, you do? Someone commits a crime and they say, oh, but this is why I did it. That's why we have trials. That's why we have trials. You don't go on the word of someone who is accused of committing a crime and investigations indict the person, say you committed a crime. You don't believe what they say. And that's why I keep saying whenever any of these high-profile people are indicted, I'm like, okay, let the courts do their job. And as we watch the courts attempt to do their job, if we see the court stretching the law or getting rid of the law like we did this week with the judge in Minneapolis throwing out the case against the Somali fraudsters, we call it out. We want a legal system to work in a way that appears fair. It is fair and it appears fair. It isn't partisan. You don't see all the innuendo that is partisan and that essentially presumes guilt before the case is closed. You know, we need to be very honest with ourselves and not be partisan, because I mean, if what I'm seeing here is A, you put up something that you may have read somewhere else, we didn't say it here. B, we're being asked to believe a lie that a criminal told. And the question again is, okay, so he's essentially confessing. Okay, are we sure this is the person? Because he's still being called a suspect. He hasn't been convicted yet of doing it. It's just like the guy who jumped up after Charlie Kirk was murdered, saying something about, basically, it was almost like he was owning up to being the person who shot Charlie Kirk to provide a distraction for the person who actually did it to escape. So should we have taken his word for it? Should we have said, well, he said he did it, so let's put him on trial for the murder of Charlie Kirk? Is that what we do now, Lauren? We need to be intelligent. Like, let's be intelligent people, okay? I don't know if he is Democrat or Republican. All right, if Brian Cole is Democrat, it's incidental at this point. If he's Republican, highly unlikely, but incidental as well at this point. Let's treat him like a criminal. Let's treat him like a criminal to start with. Because the reason why I'm pushing this is this. The people on the left and right, I have family members who vote Democrat. They are my blood, and I love them. They are not evil people. So if we begin to play this game that says, oh, let's hope this guy is a Democrat, we are essentially claiming that anyone who is in the Democrat Party is evil, and I know that they are not. And many times I say, oh, these Democrats are evil. I don't mean to say every Democrat is evil. I'm referring to the people who are doing the evil things that we're talking about. Okay? So I just need to clarify it, because I know I'm taking time. I mean, we are over the hour mark, and it's important to talk about this comment or these comments because we're going to start seeing a lot of muddying of the waters online. Already, we see Lauren posting, you know, a group have been fantasizing that it was a Democrat. I haven't even given the pipe bomber a thought since it was a big thing a few years back. I haven't, until it made it back into the news cycle. So nobody has been fantasizing. No one, unless the people are in Congress or unless the people are out there, you know, whose job it is to look into these fringe stories. It's a fringe story. It's not a present day relevant story. is a fringe story. There are people whose job it is to do that, and more power to them. It's not my job. It's not the job of millions and millions of us out there who talk about what's going on in the news and in culture. It's not. Nobody comes up and says, what happened? Whatever happened to that pipe bomber? Nobody ever talks about it. A couple of months back, they thought it was a woman. All right? There was a lady. There was a lady. I have her picture here. I have a photo here. I'm going to find it. There was a lady who was essentially a person of interest. She was a person of interest. I hope I can find it real quick. Okay. She was a person of interest. She happened to be white. And the claim was some software had okay, yeah, there she is. That some software was used to identify her. Okay, I'm going to take off this chat. All right. So this was the person who was originally, so the news says here, this was November 8th. It said forensic software has identified former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Shawnee Ray Kirkhoff, who quit the USCP 6 months after January 6th as a 94% match to the January 5th DC pipe bomber. This was the original person that people were claiming was the pipe bomber. This hit my news feed. I looked at it. I don't remember covering it, and I don't think I did. And it was like, okay, let's wait until, because what I felt, and I think I went ahead to not cover the story. I said, let's wait until the DOJ investigation is done, because you can't run with some of these stories until you're sure of the conclusion. There are breaking stories that I don't take. I don't cover some breaking stories because, as far as I'm concerned, it's not conclusive. I don't want to come back tomorrow and say, all right, they actually got it wrong, right? This was a breaking news yesterday. The pipe bomber was breaking news yesterday. I didn't cover it during yesterday's live streams because I needed the news to breathe. I needed to know that this was where they were pinning down the tent. This was what they were doing, and they were moving forward with this. So most conservatives don't spend their days fantasizing about every crime, every political act being the fault of a Democrat. We don't. When we see it on video, when we see it displayed, we talk about it. Okay, so we don't spend our days fantasizing, okay, about the pipe bomber being a Democrat. I just want to correct that. All right, Lauren, if you're still out there, you are not the enemy for believing this. We are not the enemy for believing otherwise. That's the way I want us to approach this. It's a conversation. It is something that we should all get comfortable doing. If we disagree about something, it's fine. We all have the right to disagree. We all have the right to disagree, but it doesn't mean that we should make the other person the enemy. All right, so I just wanted to cover that. So guys, what do you think about what she said? I know it's middle of the workday, okay? So we'll just I was about to wrap up and say bye, but Lauren pulled me back in. But if you're watching, and whether you're watching on Rumble or on Kick or Twitch, or you're watching on both YouTube channels, because I stream on both of my YouTube channels, let me know what you think of Lauren's take. Okay, I've given my own lengthy breakdown. I try to be understood, all right? At this part of the conversation, I'm trying to be understood. And honestly, I want us to learn how to live with each other. I want us to learn how to understand each other and not just break down things to Democrat, Republican, all right? I don't want to do that. It's fun to do that. It is cathartic for some people to believe that these other people are the bad guys. So I am on the right side of history. It's cathartic for people to want to do that. Okay. But I don't think that it is the decent thing to do. It's not decent to lie and to pin people against each other. Okay, I don't think it's decent to pin people against each other. I want us to learn how to live with each other again without painting the other person as the enemy. All right, that's what I want. All right, it's an hour 30 minutes in. I'm wrapping up. And if I see someone post in the chat something that pulls me back in, I will assume you don't want me to go. Okay. Like I said, people come for the commentary on the news, but they stay for the conversation. What do you think of the commentary we made so far on the stories that we covered? We covered the CNN and MSNBC racial profiling of the pipe bomber. They desperately appear to have wanted the pipe bomber to be white. And they reported it on CNN Live that he was a 30-year-old white person. And then TDSBC for years had been saying that the reason why the pipe bomber hadn't been caught was because they were white. This release that we have on the screen claims that it was a white woman. And of course, there were endless speculations that she was connected to the CIA. And now we're hearing that it wasn't a white person who planted the pipe bomb, but it was a black person who planted the pipe bomb. No mention of political affiliation because the pipe bomb appeared to have been planted at both the RNC headquarters and the DNC headquarters. So there's a lot to unpack there, but we don't have all the information. So we're going to be wrapping up right now. Thank you so much for joining us for this live stream. If you are watching after the fact, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat. I will definitely be reading your comment. Like you see, I try to read all the comments that come in. And if you enjoy the content and you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so that you're notified as soon as we go live next time. And if you want to support us more, you can donate by leaving a super thank or a super chat. It helps out the channel a whole lot. It keeps the lights on, and it encourages me to do better work with research, spend more time providing extra value every time I do present these stories to you. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we cover the developing news stories of the day. Goodbye, and God bless you.